I've been working on this project since 2018, literally for over 2 years, and I finally got it complete and put it out into the world for the Halloween season of 2020. Because let's be honest, this year hadn't been scary enough. All right, so this video series, I'm going to be talking about Fabled Able, my album talking about my clinical anxiety. And yeah, let's get right into it. So, in 2018, my mother passed away. It was a long year of many different trials and tribulations. She started off the year going down a very slippery slope, getting into harder liquor than she had before. My mom has been an alcoholic since I was around 3 years old when her mother passed away. It was a coping mechanism that she used to not have to feel the pain of losing her mother whenever she was in her or mid 20s, I guess. My mom was in her mid 20s. My grandmother was in her 50s. And so my mom was never good with loss. She wouldn't even attend the funeral of her mom because she was bitter about her passing. So she started coping. She realized alcohol was a great coping mechanism. And it got worse and worse and worse until the point of I was on my way to get groceries one day and happened to just ever so happened to drive by her. What is on my hat? There we go. Just so happened to drive by her, and the car was laying on its side in a ditch, and she was drunk, and I had to call the police, and she got her license revoked, and it was this huge mess. And needless to say, from that point on, she just went down this spiral until the point of drinking herself to death. And she died of alcohol intoxication. And her heart actually failed out from all the alcohol she consumed. And I say that because I took a lot of that burden on myself. I've always been a bit of an anxious person. My mind likes to fathom the worst case scenarios. And then I go on this tangent of trying to research away my fears. And that just shows me things I don't need to see. And then I just get more anxious and it goes down and down and down until I just start having panic attacks. Well, of course, I was the one that called to get my mom arrested. She's dead now. Like, I think about, like, oh, did I do this to her because I had her license revoked, even though, like, that's bullcrap and you know it and I know it. But these are all these different things you have. So I remember, just to kind of sum up this relatively quickly, I was sitting on the side of my house on the porch and it was dark. And I was just like, I told my wife Elaine, I'm like, I need some air. I just need to get out of the house for a second and get some air because I feel like I'm choking in this house right now. So I walked out and I sat there and it felt like the collar on my shirt was tightening. And I laid down on the deck and I was just gasping for air, crying, having a full on panic attack. So something else that I have mentioned on some of my TikTok videos and Instagram videos that you may or may not know, but that same year, right before my mother passed away, my wife was hospitalized for a week. What started out as a minor infection turned into an allergic reaction to the antibiotic they gave her, which gave her not bacterial, medically induced, I can't speak, medically induced meningitis. Okay, it wasn't bacterial. They thought it was bacterial meningitis or viral meningitis at first. They didn't know what was going on. They thought she may have been septic. They didn't know what. It came to find out it was an allergic reaction to an antibiotic. That she was hospitalized for a week, high temperatures, just aching, shaking, like not herself, just like literally she felt like she was dying. It was just this crazy, crazy time. There was some family drama that came up after that I just really assume not talk about on here. That was between everyone, like just multiple facets of family drama all over the place. It was crazy year 2018. And I was at my wits' end. I remember just sitting on the porch, and I finally called my friend. Shout out to Erica if you watch this, because she struggled with anxiety too. Not to try to blast you, but she has, and we've always kind of like been able to talk to each other about this. And she's like, "Cody, you need to get help. You need to bite the bullet, be brave, and go get help." And I did. I talked to my father, I talked to my wife, and I talked to my friend Erica, and we all kind of decided that it was time, or I guess I decided with their support. I just needed a verbal affirmation. So if you're listening, yes, it's okay to go seek counseling because that's a beautiful thing that you're taking the initiative to go and do that. So anyway, I began counseling and therapy, and I went for therapy. I believe I've been in therapy I just stopped with COVID and all that, so that ought to tell you something. Um, So over a year, I was in therapy, and my wife and I have actually talked about going back again just because it's so beneficial to our mental health to go. She started joining me about halfway through my therapy sessions just to help us work through all of the baggage and all of that. Uh, I can't speak highly enough about my wife. She's an amazing, amazing individual, and she was just a rock through all of that. But I had so much anxiety, a fear of losing her from her sickness and all that. And because she was the object of a lot of my asphyxiation, she started joining me with my therapy sessions and stuff. And it benefited both of us so greatly. And we didn't have marital problems, but it benefited our marriage. It just helped in so many facets. Through that, one of my coping mechanisms to kind of draw this all together is writing music. It's one of my coping mechanisms for everything. Music is like my life. So I began writing this album, Fabled Able. And it started with a doodle on my iPad, which is the cover art that you saw over there. Yeah, whenever it was up here with the demonic thing, like the creature in the background. I'm not an artist at all, but I drew this thing and I started working on it. And I'm like, I feel like this thing is on my shoulders. And so I remember I was kind of funny. I was mowing the yard one of the next days, and I saw this bird fly down and land on the barbed wire fence that surrounds our property. And I thought to myself, I am like that. How do I say this? I feel like I'm trapped in this claw, this vice grip that's holding me in. I feel like I'm being choked out. But why can't I be that bird? He lands on this fence, knows exactly where to land to not get stuck by the metal, and can just freely fly away. These fences have no bounds to him. Why is anxiety binding me? And so that was a huge breakthrough for me to just continue on my journey of trying to get through and learn how to cope with anxiety, to overcome those thoughts, to cut those thoughts off before they even happen, to allow those thoughts just the freedom to flow on. And I'm going to talk about that a little later in one of these, but that was kind of the inspiration for this album that ended up being Fabled Able, where I wanted to write what it felt like to have anxiety, the up and down roller coaster of emotions where you're good and then you're bad, and it's like best case, worst case, and all of this. And so if you notice every track, it's like track one is kind of a dramatic, scary sound. Track two is kind of an energetic, hopeful sound, kind of modeled after that bird. Track three is like, oh, good. And then track four is like, oh, bad. And then track five is kind of like a meditation. It's just this up and down because that's what anxiety is. You can literally almost feel it, or quite literally feel it, because it actually affects your heart rate, but like you can feel it in your heart. And so I wrote this as a method of showing anyone out there who faces anxiety of any kind, general anxiety. Let's just be honest, there's nothing general normal about anxiety. So I wrote this to help people hopefully know they're not alone, to be able to put something to their mind to show an outside perspective of what they're feeling, so they can show a loved one, or they can even just feel validated, and hopefully to help them overcome. So we're just going to go into each of these tracks. I'm going to do an episode very similar to that I did for 30 Thoughts Till Dawn. If you caught all of 30 of those, it's very similar to that. I'm just going to go through each individual track and explain my meaning behind it, and we'll listen to it on here and we'll talk about it. So also, if you want to hear more about my story, I can do a video all about my childhood story of dealing with alcoholism. I've had guns held to my head. I've almost been stabbed. I've been locked in closets. I've had some crazy stuff happen. And I came out the other side being able to actually preach my mother's funeral and have everyone laughing in joy. And I say that not trying to brag, but I mean, I was able to do that from a place of forgiveness. And so, like, I've been through some crazy stuff. So if you want to hear that story and you made it this far in this video, let me know in the comment section, and I might do that if I have enough people that are interested in hearing. But thank you guys, and of course, if you haven't done so far, I would greatly appreciate it if you would subscribe to this channel or go find me over on TikTok, and I'm much more active on Instagram now. Instagram is a regular platform of mine as well. And so until next time, I will see you then.